We are in this together.
You have gifts that I don't have, and I have gifts that you don't have.
That we must see. Now is the time, because it's when we all get together that we will make the changes that we must make. We are the world.
Welcome to Malcolm and We, a streaming service that brings you half-hour shows about how to improve the world. My co-host is Yana Larson, and our guests are Bob and Noel, who are called the Sacred Activists. And Yana, since you know them, introduce them.
Yes, thank you, Malcolm, and welcome, Bob and Noel. So I know them as light partners. They are husband and wife light partners, dedicating their energy to supporting people, projects, and communities that embody and enhance the light of humanity. They love connecting those, remembering that their purpose on earth is to love, grow, and evolve spiritually. They believe that as humanity makes conscious choices from a place of love, co-creates with spirit, and cooperates with nature, they will collectively evolve a world that works for everyone. Their vision is to create a better quality of life for all those they work with, supporting at-risk and special needs populations so that they may have more choices for their future, and fostering greater sensitivity in populations providing services. The two main actions are with Costa Rica Humanitarian Foundation and the Co-Creators Convergence Community. Of course, they have so much more to say, and I've met them with World Unity Week and also with Poor People's Campaign. So there are a lot of overlapping areas of work that I have done with them, and I hope to do more. Welcome, Bob and Noel.
Thank you. Honored to be here.
Yeah, what a delight to spend time with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And,
so where should we start?
Yeah, what do you got? What are you doing? What would you like to our audience to know about you? I mean, you have so many things.
They both go,
That's the truth. Why don't we start with the Poor People's Campaign, because that's really how Yana and we got connected. It was through World Unity Week, but I was talking about we are joining Reverend Barber and getting a busload of people to go to the June 18th Poor People Moral March on Washington this past June 18th. And we are in Northeast Tennessee. And this is a very red area. I don't like to use labels, but we're like a progressive thought here is, let's just say, not in the minority by any stretch.
Not in the majority.
Not in the majority. Sorry, Bob. So
this ain't Boulder.
So we had we wanted to take people up there. It's about a 7-hour drive up to DC. We got a huge rock star bus. And we had to get 40 people to go, or we couldn't go at all. And through hook, crook, and everything else, people making donations and people showing up, it worked out. We were on the bus 7 hours up there. We were there. We met with in the streets of the Capitol with 10,000 other compatriots. And what we loved about what Reverend Barber does is that he doesn't call on politicians and celebrities to address. He wants to talk about issues. He brings his speakers are people who are living an experience of not having enough food, not having shelter, not having health care, and what we would not having clean water. I mean, the list goes on. And they come up and they tell their stories. And, it just, we want to support what we can do to support the issue, to get these issues in front of our Congress. And so there was a call to make a demonstration, and that work continues.
Yeah, and it's one of the things we most admire about Reverend Barber and that whole movement is that he insists on framing the conversation, as Noel said, by putting the impacted people first, just like the Great Climate March in 20, whatever that was, 14 in New York City. It wasn't celebrities at the front of the line. It was indigenous young people and impacted people at the front of that 400,000 people in the streets. And the Poor People's Campaign does the same, and always focusing on the moral issues. We were fortunate just a few weeks ago to be in Nashville for another purpose, and that the following day, Reverend Barber called together a group to march to the Capitol in Nashville, where the legislature was discussing legislation after the 6 people were killed at Coventry School. In this state, the solution of our state legislatures to gun violence is to have more guns. And so they were discussing a bill to arm all teachers in the state of Tennessee. And Reverend Barber, we had a rally, we walked to had a procession really, because the people at the front were carrying 6 caskets, 3 small ones, child size, and 3 adult size.
Representing those that were
those killed. Very impactful. And then presentations by affected people on the Capitol steps and then into the Capitol building. And he said, we're spending too much time talking about personalities, red and blue, Republican and Democrat, liberals and conservatives. We aren't talking about the moral issues. Focuses everything on return every conversation or any question that you get asked by the press as you're in this procession back to the moral issues. They want you to say something nasty about a politician, and that's what they're going to put on the evening news. Don't do it. Talk about them.
You know what the problem is when you talk to about moral issues. Each side thinks the moral issues is their right. I mean, what we're doing, let's say with the abortion per se. According to the, again, I'm going to do left and right. But according to the left, there should be an individual decision and shouldn't be forced on people. According to the right, it's not moral. The morality is not there to kill. Same thing what's happening with the LGBTQ thing. The left said, well, it's their right to do it. And the right said, it's immoral. So when you use morality, it's sort of like a double-edged sword.
It is double-edged sword. And it's important to be able to articulate where the common ground is, where the common ground of, we all care about our kids, don't we? I would ask of the guy that occupied the White House for 4 years, do we care about our kids? And if we can agree on that, where do we go from here? Do we care about our safety? Do we care about the fact that we have a future that has breathable air and drinkable water? Point taken, Malcolm, and none of this is easy. If it was easy, we wouldn't be where we are. So, yeah.
But the thing is that we want the voices heard.
Yeah.
And that's the issue in Tennessee, is that these voices were not heard. In fact, just an interesting example, one of the things that was before the Tennessee board right then, the legislature, was they wanted to pass a bill such that the governor had to put "In God We Trust" on the state seal by 2025. So you're going, okay, let's suppose have some discussion. So a legislature stood up and said, can we have a conversation about God? Who's God? What is your definition of God? What about the people that don't believe in God? And he actually read from the Bible while he was doing this, and he was told, maybe you should have been a minister. Clink, call for a vote, it was done. So, and you might have heard about the Tennessee 3 that were wanting to be heard about gun violence. And they weren't given, the reason they took a megaphone to be heard was because the supermajority in our state legislature wouldn't listen, wouldn't hear them.
Wouldn't turn on their microphone as a legislator.
It's okay that we don't agree on all moral issues, but we all feel like we need to be heard.
Right.
And we also don't need to be labeled that, all Republicans think this or all Democrats think that. I don't think there's any validity to that thought either.
No, the problem is the way our government is set up and the way they go right now. And right, they don't think it, but the question is, how do they vote? If you most of the things in the Senate and the House right now go according to party lines. It's all Democrats did this, all Republicans did this. And I believe, as you do, they all don't think alike. But for the political pressures, they all vote alike, which is even more important. And the big thing, and now, and I always talk about it, is the way the state governments are gerrymandered. That a lot of the and they're controlled, but especially in your part of the world, they're controlled by the Republicans, even though the general populace might not be Republicans and might not agree with them.
And they're not.
Right, but they have control. And then when it becomes a matter of taking it to the courts, the way, especially during the Trump era, they've stuffed the federal justices to be Republican, the conservative Republicans, and even have the White House, the Supreme Court, 6-3.
Absolutely.
So, where is it crack? Where do we get in?
Right. Well, let me tell you that we were in DC one time, and we were there with Elders Climate Action. And we were had as a guest speaker, Senator Sheldon Whitehouse from Rhode Island. And Sheldon Whitehouse said, I've been in the Senate for a while. And he said, I used to be able to talk to my counterparts across the aisle. And he said, do you know what had happened when I could no longer do that? And I'm like, I don't know. And he said, it was with the 2010 Supreme Court decision about Citizens United. And he says, at that time, corporations effectively became a citizens with the right to vote. They were able to flood campaigns with money. And now it's really not the Democrats or the Republicans. It's big money talking to big money. It's not about citizenship. It's even a shame that citizenship and responsibilities aren't even taught in our schools anymore. But let's get the 10 Commandments in there, Texas.
You guys, with all this going on and all that you're involved in, and I know I don't know if you're ever at home because you're always driving somewhere or flying somewhere or getting to Costa Rica somehow. When you go to bed at night, do you go, oh, we did good today, tomorrow's another day? Or I mean, how do you keep your level of that you can only do so much in a day and all that? I mean, what's the magic secret for how to cope?
I don't know if it's a magic secret for everyone, but for us, the balance and the grounding is a spiritual grounding. We really have, for ourselves over the last 10 plus years, have recognized that we have to have that balance. So the day starts with meditation. Our highest priority is our spiritual, personal, individual, and as a couple, spiritual development. We even shifted at some of the protests we've been to in Washington, D.C. and with Jane Fonda at, what's it called? Fire Drill Fridays and things like that. We only have one quote protest sign for every occasion. The sign says, "March with heart." So if we're going to a gun safety, if we're going to something about women's reproductive rights, if we're going to something about climate, we're going to spend 7 days as we did back in 2013 at Democracy Spring in DC, we have one sign. If nothing else, we read the sign for ourselves that say, I shouldn't judge and I can't do anything about young people in the street that feel that their future is shit and they're mad. I can't do anything about that. I can walk in love and in being for things as opposed to being against things. And so I'd say spiritual development and the balance, both locally here, because we ended up purchasing my mom's house in 2020. And so we parked our RV. We'd been on the road for 10 years. And we have found that's where we've come to know so much about state and local politics as well. Because before we were so much focused in working with the organization Represent Us on democracy issues and on Citizens Climate Lobby on environmental issues. So felt very national in our involvement. Now we still do that, but we also are very engaged locally, both in spiritual community and in activism.
Well, that sounds good to be grounded physically and emotionally and spiritually. And I just have to say, I just have the utmost admiration for you as a couple. What a love story. I for one, as a divorced person, would have loved to found a partner who was just embraced my ideals as much. And wow, I mean, you're a model for so many reasons.
On a more personal level, how long have you guys been together and doing this?
Since 1980. So
Wow.
you can figure that out.
We've been a couple since 1980, but don't think it's always been this way. As
That's
far
43 years, huh?
Yeah, as our activism, Noel.
Yeah. So we kind of I have a PhD, and I just say that because I was a researcher in neuroscience. And Bob took his career 37 years as an aviation association executive. And I love to fly with both pilots. And we enjoyed a very wonderful life flying around and didn't have a concern in the world, you know. And but there was something that was eating at particularly me, that I was going like, yeah, this is great, you know, but all right, where are we flying to? I just kind of say jaded or unfulfilled. And so after 37 years, in 2008, Bob retired from the W-2 world, as he would say. And then at his retirement party, everybody said, well, what are you going to do now, Bob? What are you going to do now, Bob? And so he said,
I'm going to follow her. That was before we ended up with spiritual teachers and others and very wise people throughout the world and teachers and avatars that say that the feminine rising and Western women are the way to lead us into the future. So it was, when I said follow her, I thought I was saying follow my wife. What I realized later is I was saying, you know, when I'm standing at the Thousand Gods gathering on the Washington Mall, and they say, everybody make up a plaque, we're going to take snapshots. And mine said, follow the goddess. And so.
Or goddesses.
Yeah, so that's, you know, then we went through, you know, a life evaluation, you know, what was really important to us. And, you know, I guess what brought us together that 40 years ago is that we did identify in each other that, number one, we'd like to have fun together. And number two, that we're really, you know, are compassionate. We really care about other people and what's happening, you know, to our earth and to the animals and to all aspects. But I will say lately that we've kind of also evolved. We're also students of A Course in Miracles. And A Course in Miracles is you develop a new vision. And it's not seeing everything as separation. A story of separation is ego, and that's what's tearing us apart. And so Course in Miracles it's like spiritual psychotherapy, you could say. And it's about being able to actually envision how we are all one and how what I do to you affects, you know, what you give, you receive, and the oneness of all creation. And so we're still active in things that we care about because we know how other people are trying to survive on this planet. And so we try to bring our peace and our understanding as best we can in the most heartful way. And so that's.
And also the belief system that even you as a doctor in neuroscience, that reality that there's a reason for things, but there's not necessarily an explanation that can be readily explained by medical science or whatever. And there's sort of like an acceptance that there is something there that we don't need to understand exactly how it happened and whatever, but if we can believe that there is an otherworldly sort of explanation that we may not know at this time, that it can be something that helps us. At least
Yeah,
that's the way I look at it.
well,
Absolutely. You know, if you want trainer wheels on that thought system, just watch What the Bleep.
I go one step beyond what you guys say. I believe there's no rhyme or reason. That's we have to accept this is life. This is what we do. Is there a reason that this happens? I don't think so. You know, is there a divine playbook there that we're going through? I don't think so. I think it happens. I think, why does someone get cancer, another person doesn't? Why is someone shot, in the arena, and the person sits next to them is not?
Mm-hmm.
There's no answer, and you can go crazy finding why, versus saying it happens. What you have to do is take this and go on.
I believe in surrender. One of the first 10 lessons of Course in Miracles is that I understand nothing.
Right.
So when I see some situations, that's the only thing that, and another one of their precepts is I can choose peace instead of this. So when I'm getting, upset about something, I could say, I don't understand anything and I can choose peace instead of this, but I'm still in this world of form. And so I still feel a dharma, a calling to do what I'm here to do.
Right.
So it can be proactive rather than reactive. You can choose to say, well, this is happening and it's horrible and it's wrong, but what's happening in my world right now that is good and is right and is safe, and which is about living in the present, mindful living in the present.
Yeah,
that's the only thing there is. My eternity is in the present moment. That my sister told me after she passed. That was
after she passed.
After she passed. Mm-hmm. She told me before she passed, she told me she was an atheist. And I said, what's an atheist? And a friend of mine said, it's a seeker, a brokenhearted seeker. Mm-hmm. And so I've always kept that. But when she got to the other side, that was the one thing she sent to me. She says, eternity is in the present moment. So there's, and agrees with the Course in Miracles. There is no past, there is no future.
Mm-hmm. Did it come to you in a dream?
I think it did.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I've learned to pay a lot of attention to dreams. I mean, some dreams are nightmares, and it's just like, I hope that does come true.
Well, yeah,
the good things, I hope they come true.
Your dreams are a stream of consciousness that you can't, control while you're awake. And it comes into your mind when you're asleep and you're relaxed. But just going back to one thing, one of the things that I think has killed us is the Citizens United, because now politicians aren't going after the small money that you could donate $10, $20 or whatever to. They're looking for the corporations. So let's say a congressman, his term is 2 years. As soon as he is elected, what is he trying to do?
Raise money.
Raise money for the next campaign. And who's he raising money from? Corporations. Right. So is he going to vote his own consciousness, his own feelings? No, he's voting what the corporations need. Mm-hmm. And if
when you should be voting for what the people want.
Right.
None of us are being heard, really.
Right, but he's not representing. And then you're talking about, in Tennessee, they're talking about adding things with God. If I remember in my high school civics, there's in the Constitution, there's a separation between God and state.
Church and state. Yes, absolutely. We just had that come up at our church because around here, Christian nationalism is,
alive and blooming in Tennessee.
Yes, abundant. And they have a lot of, it's kind of now a code now to put a U.S. flag outside your church and inside your sanctuary as a symbolism of that. And then recently in our church, we had a debate about whether we should have a U.S. flag outside the church or inside the church. And it really got, steamy. And the church then, we came down on separation of church and state. We're not going to cross that barrier. And, that
May I ask what church that is?
Well, it's a Unitarian Universalist church.
Yeah, that's why I was asking.
do that.
We ended up, when we were planted here by COVID and my mom's passing as the two main factors, there's a Unitarian Universalist church here. When we traveled the United States in 2012 as a part of Barbara Marx Hubbard's Birth 2012 movement, we traveled in our RV to all 48 states, put on 20,000 miles, and we showed one of her documentary movies 93 times. And most of those were not most, but the biggest number were at Centers for Spiritual Living, at Unity churches, and a couple of UU churches. Well, when we got here, the other two are multiple hours away from here. And so we're very engaged in the Social Justice Committee and other things at our UU church, where,
Yep.
Malcolm, when you say, you believe stuff just happens, a UU church is a place where everybody shows up. So we've got Christians and we've got Jews and we've got atheists and we've got pagans and we've got, and it's not a quote, I don't even refer to it as a religion.
It is. It doesn't have a dogma.
It doesn't have a dogma or a sacred book. It has a covenant of how we exist together in spiritual community. And so that's the common ground that we can be doing activities and supporting things in the community and at large.
It's a belief system of openness and understanding and acceptance, which is what I love about it.
Yeah, I see this with the fundamental Christians out here. They don't follow, to me, I was raised Jewish, and I'm more or less, an atheist or agnostic. In a way, intellectually, I don't believe in God. Spiritually, I do.
Interesting.
Okay.
But the thing is, I'm very simplistic. If people, the Christian people, would follow the teachings of Jesus and not embellish it with their own thoughts, it would be a better world. I mean, the 10 Commandments, it's take care of people. They wouldn't let people be hungry. They wouldn't say, okay, let's let people from South America or Mexico starve at the border and not let them in or not take care of them. Let's take care of the homeless. They're not burdens. If we have to give part of, if the billionaires have to give part of their money, for social justice, they should. And a lot of them feel that way. If you have a $200 billion, if they take $5 billion away from you, does it affect your life?
No.
Yeah. Or if you're making over 400,
that of your children for the next 20 generations.
Right. Or if you make over $400,000 a year and they want to add another 2 points to your taxes, does this affect your life? Not really. But if the money that you give affects the life of many others, if it's used properly.
Sure.
Right. Yeah, I kind of wish, getting on the 10 Commandments, I kind of wish they'd be substituted out with the Beatitudes. Because Beatitudes are much more descriptive of what Jesus' real message was and is.
But actually, we only have like a minute or two left. How do you guys support yourselves? I mean, is there a website you could go? Do you take donations, or are you self-supporting, or?
We live by the principle of sufficiency. So we don't take donations. We have sufficient income to have a house over our head and do what we want to do. And that's kind of it.
Yeah.
We have of course, we do have our Social Security.
And we're glad for that. And we
do have
want it to continue because we worked a lot of years.
Yeah, you hear that, Congress?
It's an insurance policy that we paid all the premiums for.
Yeah, very big lifestyle. We each had our own airplane. We had a giant house. We had a lot of property. And 2008 kind of taught us a lesson.
Yeah.
And it was part of our waking up process. And so we still have remnants of that also helps keep us afloat. Plus, here's the real secret, okay? In the side yard is our RV, and we rent it out to traveling nurses.
the RV that has 80,000 miles on it.
Yeah, so it's
That's not much.
yeah, so it helps the community, it helps us, so
Yeah.
that gives us a little traveling money.
Yeah,
So
we need the nurses in this area.
yeah, we had to go
Everybody
in front of
does.
the zoning board, and I told them it was a historical vehicle, needed to be preserved. So we're.
Is there a website people could go? Is there a website that people could go to see what you're doing?
Absolutely.
Sure.
Go ahead.
There's two, Light Partners, LIGHT partners.org, O-R-G. Although we're not an official 501c3, we are a nonprofit. And then we have another organization, which is co-creatorsconvergence.com. And that is also another, it doesn't have any membership. Anybody who shows up and feels like they are in sync with us is invited to participate. We also have a Facebook presence. You can just look up Light Partners. Don't look up lightpartners.com. You'll get a German company selling light bulbs and lightpartners.org. But co-creatorsconvergence.com, we're very prominent on, I think, on the Facebook, and visit our website.
Yeah.
And get involved. Love meeting new people.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Our time is up. And as I said earlier in this show, or I don't know if I said it in the show, but take a look at the malcolmpresents.com. See if you'd like to come aboard. I'd love to talk to you and put some of your Zooms on Malcolm Presents.
Love it.
Wonderful.
Love it.
We will definitely do that.
Definitely.
And if not, we will, let's talk down the road and see if we can get you on again, because there's so much to talk about.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Malcolm.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And you're listening.
Thank you, Malcolm.
Really appreciate it.
It's been a delight.
And you're listening to Malcolm and We on malcolmpresents.com. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
The objective of the organization We the World is to facilitate cooperation on a global scale amongst groups and individuals dedicated to implementing solutions to the many challenges we face on the planet at this time.